Hi everyone, my name is Jess. Today I tell about a new book named Aroald, Turkey and the Great Glass Elevator. Last video we read from chapter 10 to chapter 13. It's all about the amazing happenings when Mr. Willy Wonka and Chocolate Bucket and his parents and also Grandpa Joe and Grandpa Gigia go into the space, but they had to be kicked out to the factory of chocolate buckets. So this video will continue to read this book to till the end. This video will read from chapter 13 to chapter 16. Now let's open the contents so we can see the pages we'll read today. Today we'll read chapter 13, How Wonka Vite was invented, at page 105. Chapter 14, Recipes for Wonka Vite, at page 116. Chapter 15, Goodbye Georgia, at page 121. Chapter 16, Vita Wonk and Minus Land, at page 138. So this video will read from page 105 to page 138, and also from chapter 13 to chapter 16. Now let's read this book with me. Chapter 13, How Wonka's Vite was invented. I haven't been out of my bed in 20 years. I am not getting out now from anybody, said Grandma. Just fine, comfortably. Nor me, Grandpa Georgia. You were not of it just now. Every one of you, said Mr. Willy Wonka. That was floating, said Grandpa George. We couldn't help it. We never put our feet on the floor, said Grandpa. Just fine. Try it, said Mr. Wonka. You must surprise for yourself. Go on, just fine, said Grandpa Joe. Give it a try. I did. It was easy. We are perfect, comfortable where we are. Thank you very much, said Grandpa Just Fine. Mr. Willy Wonka sighed and shook his head very slowly and very sad. Oh well, he said, so what's that? He laid his head on one side and gazed thoughtfully at the three old people in the bed, and Charlie, watching him closely, saw those bright eyes of his beginning of the spark and twinkled once again. Ha ha, thought Charlie, what's coming now? I suppose, said Mr. Willy Wonka, placing the tip of one finger in the point to his nose and pressing gently. I suppose, because this is a very special case. I suppose I could spare you just a tiny little bit of. He stopped it, then shook his head. A tiny bit of what? Said Grandpa Josephine sharply. No, said Mr. Wonka. It's pointless. You seem to have decided to stay in the bed, whatever happens. And anyway, this stuff is much too precious to waste. I'm sorry I mentioned it. She started to walk away. Hey, shouted Grandpa Georgia, you can't begin waiting for something and not go on with it. What is too precious to waste? Mr. Willy Wonka stopped slowly. He turned around. He looked again and marched at the three people in the bed. They looked back at him, waiting. He kept silently. Oompa Loompas stood absolutely still behind him. watching. "What is this thing you're talking about?" said Grandma Georgia. "Get on with it, for heaven's sake," said Grandpa Josephine. "Get on with it, for heaven's sake," said Grandpa Josephine. "Very well," said Mr. Willy Wonka. "I'll tell you, and listen carefully, because this could change your whole lives. It could even change you." "I don't want to be changed," shouted Grandma Georgia. "May I go on, madam?" "Thank you. Not long ago I was fooling about in my inventing room, stirring stuff around and mixing things up the way I do every afternoon at 4 o'clock, when suddenly I found I had made something that seems very unusual. This thing is made of keep changing color, and as the well it is, the testing rooms gave that some Oompa Loompas who was duty there at the time. The result was immediate. It was flabbergasting. It was unbelievable. It was also rather unfortunate." "What happened?" said Grandpa Georgia, sitting up. "What indeed?" said Mr. Wonka, asking her questions. Said Grandpa just fine. "What happened to the Oompa Loompa?" "Ah," said Mr. Willy Wonka. "Yes, well, there are no points in crying over spilled milk, is there? I realize, you see, that I stumbled upon a new and a tremendous powerful vitamin, and I also knew about that if also I could make itself. If only I could stop it about doing with it in Oompa Loompas." "What did it do to that Oompa Loompa?" said Grandpa Georgia sternly. "The older I get, the different I become," said Mr. Wonka. "Do you raise the voice refiled next time, Wonka? And thank you so much. Now then, I simply had to make the way of stuff that people could send what it's without earn. I ran into the hole of the wall that leads in the testing room. A very old Oompa Loompa was a dust with a duty there on morning. He was in wheelchair. He had been in a wheelchair for less 15 years. This is test number 132, I said, chuckling. It's up in the box. I handed up to the pill, and he looked nervously. I couldn't blame him for being a bit jittery. What had happened into the other one hardly by the 30 volunteers. I was too flabbergasted to speak. I just stood there with my feet and my head poking through the hole in the wall, staring at the little Oompa Loompa. I saw him slowly lifting himself out of the wheelchair. He walked to the few paces, and then he looked at me, and his face was bright. His eyes were huge and bright as two stars. Just 1 minute, said Grandpa just fine. Sit things up straight. First, I did like to look at the 70 years old Oompa Loompa, who is now back to 13. Middle Wonka flicked his fingers. A tiny Oompa Loompa, looking down and perky, ran towards the grounded, and he did a marvelous little dancing in front of 3 old people in the bed. 2 weeks ago, he was 70 years old and in the wheelchair, said Middle Wonka proudly, and look at him now. The drums struckly, said Grandma Joe. Listens, there's Dad starting up again, far away, down to the bank of the Chocolate River. Chocolate saw the Oompa Loompa bend squeaking. At one time, there was an Oompa Loompa in the band, and each of them with an enormous drum twice as tall as himself was beating slowly, mysteriously rhymed that soon had all the other hundreds of Oompa Loompas kinds of trains. They then began to chant, if you are old and have the shakes, if all your bones are full of inches, if you can hardly walk at all. Wait for me some minutes. That I'll be back to read it. Let's take a dose of delight. This is heavenly magic dynamite. You can't go wrong. You must go right. It's Willy Wonka's Wonka Bites. Recipe Forge Wonka Bites, Chapter 14. Where is it? Cried Middle Willy Wonka, standing in the bed and holding the hind ones of the little bottles, the most valuability of the pills in the world. And that, by the way, he said, giving Grandpa Georgia anything myself might or very fortune for labeled. I haven't taken any of my shelves. They are far too valuable to waste to me. We held for the scrunch and the scrunchy necks of the trident and the gims finds of the pills inside. Charlie and Grandpa Joe also came forward to look. So did Mirror and Mirror's bucket. The label said, Wonka Bites, each pill will make you younger by exactly 20 years. Cousin, do not take more than the amount recommended by Mirror Wonka. They could all see the pills through the glasses. They are more brilliant, yellow, and shrimming and coins quivering inside the bottle. Vibrating is perhaps a better word. They were vibrating so paradily that each pill became the blurred and you couldn't see its shape. You could only see its color. You got the impressions and that there was something very small but incredibility powerful, something not quite of the world, locked up inside them of fighting to get out. They were wriggling. The Grandma Georgia. I don't like things that wriggled. How did you know that they won't go to the wrigglings inside of after they swallow them? Like those Mexicans jumping beans of chocolates I swallowed a couple of years back. You remember that chocolate I told you not to eat them, Grandpa. That then they went for jumping in for a month, said Grandpa Georgia. I can't sit still if I'm going to eat one of those peas. I dryly wants to know what's in it first, said Grandma. That's fine. I don't blame you, said Grandma to Little Wonka, but the recipe is extremely complicated. Wait a minute, I've got to read it down somewhere. He started jiggling somewhere. He said, I can't have lost it. I keep all the most valuable and important things in those pockets. The trouble is, there's such a lot of them. He started empty to the pockets and placing the contents of the bed, a homemade capsulate, a yo-yo, a trick fried egg, made of rubber, a slice of salami, trick egg, and a tooth was filling in its a sting bomb, a packet of inching powers. It must be here. It must be. It must. He kept muttering. I put so carefully. Ah, here it is. He unfolds a scrambled piece of paper, smoothed it out, held it up, and began to read as follows: recipes for making 1 cup white. Take a block of finest chocolate, weigh it 1/10 or 20 sacksfuls of the broken chocolate, whichever is easier. Place chocolate in the very large cauldron and melt over red hot furnace. When melted, wallow the heat slight as not burnt to chocolate, but keep it boiling. Now add the following in precisely the order given, stirring well all the time. Following each taint the dissolves before adding the text. The hoof of the manticore and the trunk of a suitcase of an elephant, the yolks of 3 eggs from ruffled birds, the one of the warthog. It must be a round horn, the twice 6 ounces of sponge from the young slime scraper, 2 hares and 1 rabbit from the head of hippocampus, the brick of a rat's breast wild breast, the square root of the Sans America abricus, the fangs of the viper, it must be the vine screen. Viper, the chest, and the drawers of a wild groot, went all above and thoroughly dissolves, boiled for further 27 days, and did not stir, for the ends and would be evaporated, and there will be left for the bottom of cauldron only a hot brown lump in the size of a football. Break this open with a hammer, and the very center of it you will find a small round pill. This pill is 1 kilobyte. So this video I tell you about a book named Ragdoll Chocolate and the Great Glass Adventure. And so next video I tell you about a new chapter in this book. So this was today, and goodbye for everyone. Thank you for listening to my video. Goodbye. See you next time. Best for all of you. Goodbye.